Our guest here, Major General Ishola Williams, who is retired, is a former chairman, Nigerian chapter of Transparency International, and also former commander, Army Signals, and also former commander, Training and Doctrine at Straddock. Thank you so much for joining us in our studios this morning. Oftentimes when we speak with you, we're always speaking with you virtually. So it's good to have you in our studios. Good morning and welcome.
Yeah, it's good to see you without a visa.
We can never cancel yours. Oh, well, look at what is happening right now. On Friday, we got news of this appointment. Yes, of this appointment of new service chiefs. So some people, they said it took them by surprise. Others say, oh, it's routine. This, according to the new terms and conditions of service, service chiefs serve for an average of 2 years, and after which it is the president who determines if their tenure will be extended or if they will be told thank you and new service chiefs appointed. For you, how did it come to you, the news of the new service chiefs?
You know, I think it is something that is normal in every country in the world. If the commander-in-chief feels at any time that the service chiefs are not performing, or any one of them is not performing, he has all the constitutional right and power to change them. I do hope that the situation we are in is not because there are rumors of a coup, you know, and that if that sort of thing could happen under them, it means they are not taking care of what they are supposed to be taken care of. And I also believe, too, that if it were for non-performance, with respect to the insurgency that is still going on, because nearly every week, Governor Zulum is always crying about Boko Haram, ISWAP, you know, and what they are doing in Borno State, especially. Okay? And we don't seem to be succeeding in getting an end to this insurgency. 15 years. And maybe we are going along with what General Buratai has predicted, that the insurgency will go along for forever. But then, if it were how many years should service chiefs serve and when they should come and when they should leave, I don't think that has been constitutionalized really. Because after all, under Buhari, they stayed for over 6 years before they were changed. Okay, so maybe that is what Senator Ali Ndume is trying to do with the new bill that he has presented, because they are going to look at the whole issue of armed forces bill, and what are the powers of the president, the chief of defense staff, and the service chiefs. Okay, I do hope that they will look at the example of South Africa. You have a wonderful, you know, articles concerning the armed forces, concerning the relationship between the armed forces and the Ministry of Defense, concerning the relationship between the Ministry of Defense and the presidency, okay, and looking at the whole ecosystem of the security architecture in this country. That is what is needed, and that is what is still missing up till now. So you keep on changing service chiefs, they come into the same system, they do their own bit, go, the situation has not changed. In fact, if you look at it as an observer, what you discover is that it appears that both the safety and security situations are not improving at all. Unfortunately, like I keep telling people, they do not differentiate between safety and security. Nigeria is secured. Nobody's attacking Nigeria. But public safety is our problem. And it's an internal problem that we are not facing squarely.
When you say nobody is attacking Nigeria, do you mean in terms of its territorial integrity, in terms of a conventional war? Because if you speak within military circles, they'll tell you Nigeria is at war. However, I mean, safety, when you talk about safety, I think it's very important for you to define very clearly what it is you mean. When you say safety, what comes to my mind are things like accidents on the road, drowning incidents, as we've seen, tanker spillage, losing people carelessly in situations we could avoid. Is that what you're referring to? Or are you referring to things like Boko Haram, bandits, kidnappers? Are those matters of safety?
Yeah, safety issues, because the people you are talking about are citizens of your own country. They are not coming from all these stories about some people coming from outside, and it's a lie. Big lie. We have a safety problem in this country. When embassies want to make an announcement, they tell you that don't come to Nigeria because Nigeria is not safe. They don't say because Nigeria is not secured. Security means that somebody is coming from outside to come and attack you. So if you have problems on your border, something is wrong with you and your relationship with your neighbors. Take Niger, for example. The people who are sharing borders with Kano are Hausa people. Kano people are Hausa. Is it Hausa from Niger that will attack Hausa in Kano? Common sense, logic.
But we cannot isolate Nigeria from the, from some of the incidences we've seen in other African countries. So, for instance, in Central African Republic, the insurgency that is currently happening there, insurgency in parts of Mali, the incidents that happened in Libya, and the fact that, our borders have been porous to many of these non-state actors who can come into our country or have been alleged to come into our country to cause trouble.
The whole thing is a joke.
Is it?
It's a big joke. Mali, today, for example, Mali has closed the schools for 2 weeks. Why? The jihadists in Mali have blocked the road for transportation of fuel into the capital, into other areas of Mali. Are those ones who will find time to come to Nigeria? The people in Niger are being opposed by the same jihadists. There's a linkage between Mali and Niger and Burkina Faso. They share the same common border. Okay? And those ones are jihadists. You have Boko Haram, which is a form of jihadist movement. ISWAP broke away from Boko Haram, which is a form of jihadist movement. These are people who are of the Kanuri ethnic group in Nigeria. They are the people of Kanuri ethnic group in Nigeria. And therefore, if you want to deal with them, like Mao Zedong says, if you have an insurgency, the insurgents are within a community. The community is the river. If you drain the river, the insurgents cannot swim like fish. But we are not looking at it like that. Therefore, if insurgency is still continuing in the Northeast, and most of the insurgents are Kanuri people, then what are the Kanuri people doing themselves? And I remember when the late Idris Deby led his army, a whole president, led his army to go and fight Boko Haram. Boko Haram said, no, we have no problem with you Chadians. It is Nigeria. It is Borno State. And you see that over the past 15 years, every time you hear in the South, oh, Boko Haram is a lie. They have never come across anywhere. Boko Haram concentrates in Borno State. They've been in Borno State for the past 15 years, and they know what they want. And all those people who are surrounding them too know what they want. Why is it that they are continuing? Why is it that they are getting support from some other people or something? Why is it that the armed forces are so weak against them? Those are the questions we need to ask and to answer, and we have answers to them.
Well, we do know that the Chief of Defense Staff, former Chief of Defense Staff now, General Christopher Musa, before he left, kept on, harping on the fact that, the solutions that need to be brought forward, the solutions that we need to end this, cannot be kinetic alone. He is harped on the fact that a lot more needs to be done in the non-kinetic area. A lot more needs to be done to end poverty. A lot more needs to be done to upgrade the living standards of the people. And it's unclear, if the message really got across to the political class as to what exactly, he was talking about. For you, as somebody who has seen this up front and, up close as well, what are your thoughts on some of the things that he said with regards to non-kinetic measures?
See. A governor in Zamfara put up a video to say that he is not getting the support he needs from security agencies. They should allow him to set up a state police, and within 2 months, he will take care of the problem. What does that say to you? Which means that there's a disconnect between the people and the security agencies. And therefore, we have heard so many stories that sometimes the security agencies collude with the bandits and criminals. Now, what is important for us is this: separate criminality from insurgency. Let the armed forces face insurgency. Let the armed forces not start running after kidnappers in Kwara State or bandits in Zamfara.
And they're connected.
The paramilitary police was created. The paramilitary police was created as the mobile force, as a paramilitary police. And what do you call it paramilitary? To be able to take up what the military does not need to do. The military is doing what they did not need to do right now. And everybody just keeping quiet. What is the paramilitary police doing? You put paramilitary police together under the police. The IGP is very happy. He has policing, he has paramilitary policing. It's not his job. Separate policing from banditry and so on. And once you can do that, by creating state police, and in some countries, in fact, not only do you have a state police, you have police commandos too, so that they can solve some of the problems within the state when it comes to banditry and something like that. Some people come up with the argument that, oh no, you give them, the governor will control them. Why not? You say the governor, according to his constitution, is the chief security officer. Why is he not supposed to have the power to control security agencies in his own state? In every federal system, you must have this 3-tier public safety system. You must have this 3-tier local government, state, federal. In the case of federal, you don't need policing at the federal level. You don't need policing at all, because public safety is bottom up. If your village, my village is safe, Nigeria will be safe. Nigeria will be safe. It's as simple. It's logical.
I know that
policing from insurgency.
I know that my colleague Ayo has questions for you as well. Ayo.
Thank you, Mokwe. General, you know, one of the indirect consequences of decisions is, I hope you can hear me now, General, because one of the things that a number of people, particularly ex-soldiers, are saying is that, in a way, the federal government may be demotivating the people that you are asking to go do the needful now, particularly with the HTACOs, that's the harmonized terms and conditions of service for military officers, and some of them for officers enlisted and enlisted personnel in the Nigerian Armed Forces. Now, on the one hand, they're saying that for all of the things that they're going to get, bulletproof vehicles for each one of them, backup vehicles, lifetime medical and assistance and all of that. Some of them are saying, look, why are you doing that for all the people who are officers of the Nigerian Army, and you're not really paying attention to the junior officers? That, in a way, it could be demotivating those who are at work right now. What are your thoughts? Go ahead, General.
Actually, what he was asking is that the welfare of those at the bottom doesn't seem to have been looked after. You know, there have been allegations that those at the top want to do things to favor themselves. So what exactly needs to happen for, you know, whatever reforms are being done at the top to really trickle down and those at the bottom looked after?
No, I think what's also missing in our own system is that every organization is supposed to have what we call an inspector general. what does that person do? Is to look at how the system in that organization operates. So if there are complaints, for example, that Inspector General will pick it up and make sure that that system is, corrected. Now, we have had the armed forces. I've always been wondering how does the Commander-in-Chief knows how everything is going on well in the armed forces? How does he know? How does he know? It's impossible. Whereas it's an important sector that you must have somebody, apart from the Ministry of Defense, who will be inspecting the armed forces every year and submitting a report. And even the whole system of the security agencies in Nigeria, the same thing. The same mistake we're also making is that, see, we separated police from the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Internal Affairs is supposed to be in charge of domestic security, domestic safety. Every agency that's supposed to do that should come under the Ministry of Internal Affairs and coordinate it. What has happened is that, leave the custom out. Custom is a revenue generating agency. Give it to the Ministry of Finance.
That's what it currently is.
That's what it should be. But it's under the Ministry of Internal Affairs. You get my point? But leave the custom to the Ministry of Finance. Get immigration, police, civil defense. Now they created forest security, something now. You bring all those ones because they are part of your domestic security. You bring them. Okay. There must be an Inspector General. Okay. Then you now have the armed forces under the Ministry of Defense. Have an Inspector General of the armed forces who report directly to the Commander-in-Chief.
An Inspector General of the Armed Forces.
Thank you, ma'am.
Isn't that the role of the Chief of Defense Staff?
Good. The whole role of the Chief of Defense Staff, like they call it, Chief of Defense Staff to the President. He commands the armed forces in some countries, our own here, but maybe the new bill will change that now. He commands the whole armed forces. That is Inspector General of the armed forces checks whether the Chief of Defense Staff and service commanders are doing their job and reports to the Commander-in-Chief. When it comes to operations, Chief of Defense Staff, that's what they call Chief of Defense Staff to the Commander-in-Chief. When it comes to checking whether they are doing their job, that is Inspector General of Police.
That's like an auditor of sorts.
Pardon?
Is it the Inspector General whom you speak of will be like an auditor of sorts?
Thank you. It's a sort of an auditor of the armed forces. Okay. In fact, in the past, in the 80s or so, what used to happen is that every year, there's always check, not only of the armed forces, but all the ministries, to check every position, what is that person doing? Why do you have this organization? Why do you have this section? If they are not necessary, they scrap them. Nowadays,
just to confirm, though, the Customs Service is actually with the Ministry of Finance.
When you come to the welfare of all these things,
yes,
it will be detected early enough, and then correction can be taken. Corruption is everywhere, so it's also in the armed forces, and nobody seems to want to do anything much about them because of impunity in Nigeria. There's serious impunity. When
I asked you about the appointment and what you made of it, on the one hand you said it was routine, on the other hand you said, it's coming on the heels of these rumors of a coup, which the military has denied very vehemently, even though they do not deny the arrest of certain soldiers, senior officers included, but they have said that has got nothing to do with a rumored coup. As someone who has served within the armed forces in very important offices, what is your conclusion, or what would I say, what is your analysis of this denials? Is this something you buy? Is this something you think, well, we're not going to get a confirmation, certainly not from military headquarters?
No, see, we've got to look at what's happening all over Africa now. Mm-hmm. We are coming back to the 60s and 70s when coups were common all over Africa. And we've all known over this period of time that in Africa, there are no opposition parties. There are no opposition parties at all. Even what's happening in Nigeria today too, where everybody is joining APC. At the end of the day, where the opposition? Okay. So in nearly every country in Africa now, the military is the opposition party.
The military?
Yes. The military is the opposition party. Why? Because when there's a coup d'etat, people go into the street and rejoice. Why? That is why AU, ECOWAS, they're helpless when there are coup d'etats. People have gone into the street. Take the case of Madagascar now. The Constitutional Court sworn in the colonel to the president of the country. Constitutional Court, which makes it legal, and on the people's side, legitimate. So when you have that sort of situation, it is because the opposition party is missing. Now, the second thing is that the presidential system of government is bad for Africa. Very bad for Africa, very bad for the control of the armed forces. Why am I saying so? When you look at the parliamentary system, or what South Africa has, it's a mixed parliamentary and presidential system. People do not know that the people of South Africa do not elect the South African president. It's elected by the parliament, just like a prime minister in UK. And the parliament can also remove the majority vote. Not the impeachment process that we copied from the United States. The level of accountability in that system is always very important too. Okay, and when it comes to the control of the armed forces or police, so look at UK that gave us independence. There's no federal police in the UK. None. Every county has its own county police. Why are they doing that? Again, it gives power to those at the county political level to be able to control and make sure that they are safe. Safety is always bottom up, and it goes along with your political structure. Okay. The second thing also is that when you see any country that is doing well, there's a form of what we call in Nigeria resource control. But that's what we call subsidiarity. Subsidiarity in form of, if they find gold in my area, the gold belongs to the people in that area. It does not belong to the whole of the country. What will happen now is that the people of that area get the gold, they share the revenue with the rest of the country that they belong to. If you have that sort of system, who wants to do a coup? If you do coup in the central, the people in the state will say, what's our business with you?
Well, the military has constantly maintained that they remain apolitical and that they always fare better under a democratic system. I'm just asking, you know, given what you know and what you've seen over the years, whether this is something that you buy in terms of how the military has denied, you know, these rumors.
No, it is because, again, when you look at political parties in Africa, there are no political parties, except countries like ANC, I mean, South Africa, where they came from for the past 100 years and things like that. There are no political parties in Africa. You know why? A group of individuals or one person has enough money to control the whole party. So when they come to primary, what do you see? It is not manifesto. It is money that determines who becomes the candidate. In that sort of system, is that a political party?
So are you issuing a message of warning to Nigerian political leaders or the democratic leaders in Nigeria?
Yeah, if you see, again, I always tell people we are making a mistake in the whole of Africa. You see everywhere, universities, this one, that one, Center for Leadership Training, Center for Leadership something. It is not true. We have a followership problem in Africa. We have a followership problem. Why? Why should you go and give somebody 5,000 naira and then that person will vote for a crook? And then you come and complain later. You cannot complain. So your problem is followership, not leadership. I saw one big conference one time, they said leadership forum. What are you leading? What are you leading? In every system in Nigeria, corruption. Where the leadership? And it's because people do not talk. It's because people do not talk. Anywhere you have a elected followership, no. Like another head of that show, why did they have trade union? The essence of trade union is to have the collective interest of the people for any company to be run. In fact, in a place like Germany, trade unionists have members on the board of every company in Germany. Trade unionists have members on the board. Listen, our problem in Africa is followership.
So what solutions are you proposing?
First of all, I will concentrate on enlightening followership in Nigeria and tell people the power belongs to you. It's a mistake for you to believe that the military is going to save you. In the military, there are many crooks too, like you have among the politicians. I don't call them politicians, they are politicians. So you have the same in the military too. And therefore, the power rests with you through a good political party system that you control. And I've always been asking the young people in our country, especially those below 50 years of age, how come that you allow old people like me with money to dominate your party when majority of you who are below 50 are the majority members of that party? You must be hustlers.
Well, certainly, I think that's one advice that we all can broadcast. We have to thank you very much this morning for coming on our program. Major General Ishola Williams, retired, is a man of many parts. Is former chairman, Nigerian chapter of Transparency International, a former commander, Army Signals, former commander, Training and Doctrine, and also former Chief of Defense Training and Planning. And it's been a pleasure to have you in our studios. Thank you so much for coming on, General.